So another verse from the Dhammapada, and this time I'm going to the section on the path, that is the Noble Eightfold Path. So this verse says, "You yourself must make the effort. Buddhas only point the way. Those who have entered the path and who meditate will be freed from the fetter of illusion." You yourself must make the effort. I think this is both a relief and quite a responsibility, isn't it? So, once you give up the idea that there is some God that's going to protect you, that's going to tell you what to do, that's going to offer you a heaven at the end of it, instead of that, Buddhism offers something quite different. And I think one of the strengths of that is that it's a real exploration of yourself. So you're not looking out for anyone else to rescue you. And that is what we do a lot of the time, isn't it? It's at the heart of a lot of religion. If only we can put our trust in someone else, if only we're going to be saved by someone else, what a relief that would be. Well, let's open our eyes, that's, according to Buddhism, not how it works. We ourselves make the effort. So the Buddha, he gave us a lot of teachings, loads and loads of teachings. And each one of them could really lead us to enlightenment if we applied ourselves in the right way, if we put in the best kind of effort. And the best kind of effort, as we know, is a balanced effort. Because if we take on too much too quickly, we'll rebel. Something in our psyche will rebel. It's a lovely idea, isn't it, to think that we could walk around with a begging bowl and we wouldn't mind what we ate and we would wear a simple robe. But, the truth is, for most of us, we're not going to live that way. So we have to find a way to integrate the Dharma into our everyday life. And that's very possible. I guess it's what I've been doing for the last 30 years, really. And how do we go about that? Well, you've probably come across the 4 right efforts. And it's a teaching that's generally applied to meditation, but we can apply it to the whole of our life as well. So the Buddha talked about effort in terms of, sometimes he talked about it in terms of playing a lute, or you could look at any string instruments and apply it. So if we have the strings too tight, they're likely to break, aren't they? And if we have them too loose, we're not going to get a very nice tune. Basically, it's going to be all over the place. It's going to sound pretty horrible. So he talked about kind of fine-tuning. And that's what we're doing with our own mind. We are fine-tuning our mind when we decide that we're going to train our mind and that we're going to at least try and see what the Buddhist path has got to offer. And that's what we're doing. We're trying it. We're tasting it for ourselves. So there's no point keeping doing it if it doesn't have any effect. Often if people say they don't find meditation effective, they haven't been able to meditate. The first thing I ask them is, do you meditate every day? Well, I meditate once a week, they might say. And, I have to say, well, it isn't enough. It's not going to do the job. Basically, you've got to meditate every day. You've got to commit yourself to it to really treat it like an experiment. And that's the way that we can apply a lot of the Buddha's teachings. So let's come into the 4 right efforts. So we're working with our mind here, and we're looking to see what is already in our mind. And we do this a lot, don't we, when we meditate? We settle down and we see, what can our body tell us about how we are right now? Are we aware of any particular emotions? any particular thoughts that are running around in our mind. So we have a little check there. And if we find something positive in our mind, it might be something very subtle. It might be something in our body. It might be like a warm, comfortable belly. Let's start something really simple. So we find we have a warm and comfortable belly. That we bring attention to it. That's what we do. We just bring a quiet attention to that sensation. And in that way, we are maintaining a positive experience. So that's one of the 4 right efforts, maintaining what is positive. It could be that we're doing the Metta Bhavana and we invite our friend to join us in our awareness, and it's very simple. Perhaps we imagine our friend just sitting beside us, meditating with us. And we feel kind of open and warm and glad our friend is there. So that is a positive experience that we want to maintain, and so we focus on it. It's very simple, isn't it? But we look for what is positive in our experience. So, even if you're feeling not very happy, maybe you're feeling sad, irritated, angry, if you look, you can probably also find something positive in your experience. Our experience is very rarely just one thing or another, just one simple thing. It's complex, isn't it? There's something. Yeah, there's always something that you can find. You might be sitting meditating, or sitting looking at the garden meditating. Sometimes you can meditate with your eyes open, and you might just catch sight of a flower, and that can be enough. Okay, I'm going to focus on something positive in my experience. So you maintain something that maybe is already there, but you also develop it. So there might be at first, I can find nothing in my experience. Nothing in my experience at the moment. I'm feeling pretty grotty. Okay, what then? Well, I might bring a verse of the Dhammapada to mind that encourages me, that inspires me, or some other teaching. So this is more not maintaining what's already there, but developing something that isn't there. And it might be that when I remind myself of a line of Dharma from somewhere, that I feel uplifted. So one of the lines, for example, that I often bring to mind when I'm meditating, let's say my mind is really busy. I've got thoughts rushing around in my mind. I might say to myself a line from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who's one of my very favourite teachers. And he says, what we have to do is to melt the ice of concepts into the living water of the freedom within. What we have to do is to melt the ice of concepts into the living water of the freedom within. I just find that such a beautiful phrase, such a beautiful sentence. So, he's talking there about noticing what concepts arise in our mind and allowing them to enter the flow of our experience. Let them go, let everything go. Okay, so we look for what's positive, we maintain what's already there, and we develop what's not there. So it probably won't be a surprise for me to tell you or to remind you that what we're also doing is noticing what is unpleasant in our experience. What is unpleasant? And when we do that, what do we do? What do we do? Do we turn away? Do we pretend it's not there? No, we turn towards it. We turn towards it. So by looking for what's positive, we are preventing negative states of mind from arising. We're preventing. And that's very important. Can we prevent? Is there any benefit in looking for what's positive? Well, I would say yes, there is. It's very easy to be negative. It's very easy to moan and to notice exactly what's wrong in life and how difficult everything is. So, to a large extent, we prevent negative states from arising. And we can also do that in our everyday life by making choices. By making choices what we expose ourselves to. So, for example, if you know that you get really greedy when you go into a supermarket, maybe it's better to do your food shopping online. Maybe it is. Maybe you've got to avoid going past bakeries. Maybe I've got to avoid going online and looking on eBay. So we've all got things that we're drawn to and maybe we have an excess of. So to prevent ourselves, we take precautions. So a practice that I often talk about is guarding the senses, guarding the senses of the doors. Sorry, I got that wrong the way around. Guarding the doors of the senses. So yeah, if we expose ourselves to violence, then how can we expect that not to be in our mind? If we read about and watch a lot of sexually sexually robust things on television or at the cinema, well, we're going to feed that craving, aren't we? So preventing. And there is also eradicating what is negative in our mind. And, well, we can do that in all sorts of ways. So, for example, I think a rather lovely one of eradicating in meditation can be when we're really busy with our thoughts, when they're really flooding our mind. We can eradicate that kind of mental activity by allowing ourselves to imagine thoughts being like clouds in the sky, by looking, we could say, for a sky-like mind, open, endless, no boundaries. So yeah, that can be a really beautiful thing to do. But, it can be that if we're trying to meditate and actually what we've got is anger, we might have to do something quite strong to eradicate it. Like, okay, I'm going to do the metta bhavana and I'm going to do it in quite a conceptual way. So I'm going to interrupt these angry thoughts. Or maybe, maybe if we've been practicing for a while, we can use, I would say a kind of logic. It's like, if I'm doing the fourth stage of the metta bhavana, so I bring to mind somebody that I find difficult, well, I can ask myself questions like, what does this say about me that I don't like this person? I'm finding them difficult. What does it say about me? Oh, it says about me that I'm intolerant. It says about me maybe that I'm prejudiced. I can find out all sorts of things about me. But I can also do something else which is more difficult, which is tell myself that, these difficulty, the things that I find difficult about this person, other people probably do as well. Maybe they're quite extreme, And I think, what is the appropriate response? If it's not hatred, if it's not aversion, I think, well, actually compassion. It must be horrible to be like that, to upset people all the time and so on. So there's always ways that we can work with this. So you yourself must make the effort. Buddhas only point the way. So that's some of the ways we can work with ourselves by applying the 4 right efforts. That's what they're usually called, or the 4 exertions. Now, how do we use our energy? That's a big question. It's worth asking ourselves. How do we use our energy? Yeah. So hopefully there's 1 or 2 tips there, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.